Hello everyone, Danielle Alexandria here of DanielleAlexandriaAlchemy.com, new website as you know. I wanted to give you some energy updates. I haven't seen you in this way in a little bit, so we are doing a live, or hello to those of you on the replay, and I want to fill you in on some of the things that I have felt going on in the ethers, some of the things that I've noticed with myself, my ancestral line, my clients, my friends, so many things going on. So let's talk. Hi Diana, thank you for coming on live. Give me just a second while I pin a comment here. I think I could still, yes, pin that. Sorry, hang in there. There we go. Yes, thank you. IG is working. So the energy lately, it has been such a crazy month. Apologies, my attendance and appearances here have not been as frequent as I got you used to, but so much has been going on. As you know, last month I launched my new website, Danielle Alexandria Alchemy. Thank you guys for the feedback on that, by the way. I really appreciate it. But also, ever since then, kind of the last week of January, I would say, started a great deal of solar storm activity. And solar storms are, in my opinion and experience, also very linked in with those of us who are in tune with energy, light codes as I call them, energy updates and upgrades and all the things. And if you are into spirituality, consciousness expanding in any form, solar storms will probably greatly affect you. So solar storms, in my experience, send out this kind of collective update, like when you get it on your phone that says, hey, there's an update for such and such operating system, whatever you have this many days to add it or it's going to be automatically installed. Same kind of thing in my experience with energy updates and collective codes that go out, whether it's through a solar storm, through an astrological event that's taking place, something in your family line, etc. And so we kind of tend to experience these in waves. So last week of this was very particularly intense for me. And then this week, I know of some friends and clients who are feeling what I felt last week. So the same kind of thing of when you get an update on your phone, like we were talking about, where you have the option, like it's software. It's software that you obviously need for whatever reason, but you have the option of when it's going to install. And you can keep putting it off for a little while to make it work in a better time frame for you, but eventually it's going to need that update to happen. So this is how I tend to experience and see with myself and my clients that energy update happening, where it happens in waves. Now, it's helpful that it happens in waves because we're not all going through a collective shift at once, and then people who go through an earlier wave can kind of hold space for and support people going through a latter wave. So I usually tend to find myself in the earlier wave of things so that I can help more people through after going through it. So whatever wave you resonate with, whether you've been kind of feeling the funk the last month or so, on and off, or whether you're just starting to feel it, some of the things that you may be able to expect, because everything is malleable and up to your personal energy, are with these upgrades, there is something that myself and a lot of other light workers in the past have called Ascension sickness, which is basically where a collective energy upgrade is happening, and as that upgrade is happening, the things that don't resonate with that newer energy need to detox from your system and the physical reality that you've been upholding. And so whether you have anything physically maladied with you and your body or not, of course, always please go to a doctor and get that checked if you feel like you do. But you can, even if you have absolutely perfect health, feel some sick-like symptoms or very fatigued, a lot of changes in your sleeping. That's particularly resonant with solar storms. Whether that is a change where you can't sleep and you just can't seem to get asleep or stay asleep, or whether you need a lot of sleep, like when you're out in the sun all day and even if you're not doing a lot, you feel very tired. And so whatever that cycle is for you, listen to that, listen to your body, and honor that. Hey guys, thanks for popping in. I'm giving a collective energy update, but if you have a personalized question you want a reading on, you can check the pinned comment and leave that in the comments at any time, by the way. So listen to your body on the cycles that you are feeling and how that is affecting you. Also, something that I have been noticing with clients and people that I work with is that there are a lot of collective soul contracts seeming to be ending at this time that have been carried for longer than this lifetime. So let me just briefly explain, if you're new or just never heard this from me before or anyone before. Soul contract are agreements that we make at a soul level before we incarnate into this body, things that we want to learn, agreements that we make to learn certain lessons or clear certain karmas from our soul, heal certain things, balance certain relationships, etc. Now, they could be soul contracted with people, places, things, habits. Anything really can be termed a soul contract. It is most common that I read for soul contracts that you may have with another person, but these can also be soul contracts that you have with a particular belief system or experience. So the ones that I am seeing come to a collective end for a great deal of people at this time are really the soul contract with addiction. And this could be addiction to substances, to habits, to beliefs. Really, again, that's malleable in definition, whatever it resonates for you. But the soul contracts that I'm seeing ending or coming up to be ended at this time are really in line with addiction, and addiction that has been experienced through multiple lifetimes. Now, this could be experienced through multiple lifetimes you have had personally, or it could be soul contract that you've had with addiction in the family line, which is tied into addiction being an inherited disease, as people call it, and in the genes, but also why certain people in the family will get that addictive gene and certain people will not have it turned on in the epigenetics of it all. So it could be either a long-term soul contract, multi-generational, for your soul line and your ancestral karma and trauma, or just your soul and multiple lives you've experienced in different family lines, or a combination of both. But that is happening. I have worked with multiple people on this in the past month and a half, and I am seeing it very prevalent, especially if there are soul contracts with entities, I will say, that have been linked into the addiction, and that soul contract was made not only with the experience but with outside energy that came in. And this is what people who fight and struggle with addiction would typically refer to as fighting their demons, or if someone loses the battle in passing away to their addiction, people generally use that term of, oh, they couldn't fight their demons anymore. This is based on a real thing where some addictions are linked also into entity agreement. Now, the way I work in clearing that is also to find the root of what made you vulnerable to it on a conscious or unconscious level to make an agreement. Most often it is linked in with childhood trauma or multi-lifetime trauma, where on some level that made us feel safe as a coping mechanism, to have that substance, that energy, that entity, that habit around. It was protecting us at some point and then became addictive and unhealthy. So that's where I like to work with people in clearing that up. But I've noticed that linking in with the energy update that we were just talking about, that collectively is happening, whether you are facing or clearing an addiction or not, where you can, during these energy upgrades, feel this bit of sickness, this bit of fatigue, a strange relationship with sleep or your dream life, etc. And for some of you, you may not have to consciously clear any of those addiction contract templates because it's not in your family line, or you haven't experienced it in this lifetime or in quite a few lifetimes, but it still may be something that your soul detoxes from slightly from a lifetime long past, or like we were talking about in the beginning of what ascension sickness is, it could just be that there are so many different energies that are no longer resonant with you, addiction, substance, or not, just any type of energy that's no longer resonant with the new upgrade that you are receiving and all the work you've done to get you to that point, that as they purge out of your life, you may feel semi-sick symptoms. I am also noticing if you don't feel physically strange like a detox experience, which again, please always get checked if you have the luxury to do so, because you never want to just put it to a spiritual thing and ignore the physical component as well. I want everyone to be safe, and I love the balance of those two things. But in addition to the physical kind of element there is also this factor of imposter syndrome, or mentally down, or as a friend of mine likes to say, blue days. I particularly love the Blu-ray and find it quite comforting and healing, so I never got that definition of saying blue is depressive, but people do refer to it as that. So this kind of element of feeling really down out of the blue, just kind of seemingly out of nowhere, or after a good bit of positive momentum, that is also something that's very prevalent during this wave that is happening. And again, none of these things are canon, right? They don't have to affect everyone in the same way. But as this is going out to multiple people and will be on replay, I wanted to just kind of give an overview of the possibilities and the things that I have seen multiple times or experienced personally, so that if and when you do experience them during these kind of energy updates and energetic waves, you will feel more comfortable with a definition of knowing the majority of where it's coming from. That being said, it will always also be coming from somewhere inside of you that still resonates with needing or wanting that experience to get you more towards where you're going. But especially if you experience something that's unsettling, like a physical symptom or a mental health side symptom with not feeling yourself or feeling depressive, knowing that there is a reason for it, that's not something that you've done wrong in terms of your energy, which I know sometimes as light workers, people can struggle with that feeling like, oh, I must have done something wrong in my energy if I'm open to this or feeling this way. It's not that. Everything is teaching you something. It is not wrong to have these types of feelings or experience these types of things. Sometimes you will be protected from it and outside of it, and sometimes there will be something in your field that calls to experience it in a small way. And eventually you can experience it less and less, understand it more quickly, and move through it more quickly. But it is something that happens. And it tends to also be something that brings more people online with more of their gifts, with more of their intuition, with more of their expanded consciousness. So whether you've already started that journey and been on it for a long time, you can get that kind of upgrade, or during these times, we tend to see windows where people who are not very spiritually open do tend to open up more, may start talking about spiritual experiences, gifts, etc., or dreams. Dreams are kind of a safe way for people to experience paranormal, spirituality, all of this type of thing, because it is a container where we allow ourselves to be free. It's the automated response to be free. That being said, the dream time is quite crowded and acting a little unusual with this solar activity as well. So if you've been having strange dreams, that could be a reason for it. Again, by the way, if you guys have questions, feel free to pop it in, personal or general. I would love to answer them while I'm on live here. But I did want to share that because it's felt quite strange. I was under the weather last week in relation to this and how it was coming up with me clearing something personally and in my family line, in terms of, how these codes are bringing up things that we can ride the wave of that energy to clear it from our ancestral line so that our body does not have to turn it on. So I've done quite a lot of work on my ancestral line to the point that there have been some points, to be honest with you, that I have resented those ancestors of mine because I did quite a bit of work, and I put boundaries there and saying, that's enough for now sometimes in terms of me experiencing things and doing all the clearing a lot of times myself. But this one that came up kind of last week, was very important for me to say, yeah, I see that, and that's not going to affect my body. So we do, in my opinion, again, have more power over epigenetics than we think. And I really do believe that we will be linking the spiritual work and the energy healing and the meditation things that we do with that in the coming years. It has already started to be linked in science that is behind closed doors. But we're going to start seeing things, I believe, in the spiritual space and sphere be more linked in with our physical health. And we have more power over that, over our bodies, than we think we do. I also started noticing how much fear and programming around fear we carry from our ancestors more and more in terms of the ancestral trauma factor of it all. So ancestral karma would be linked to things like those soul agreements, addictive tendencies, etc. Ancestral trauma can be more linked to disease, belief systems, thought forms, patterns of thought. In other words, feeling defeated in your thinking, feeling limited, feeling poverty-stricken, holding on to weight in certain ways. Now, both karma and trauma ancestrally could be linked into disease and causing disharmony in the body and having the epigenetics turn on the genes for certain diseases and not. How that plays out really depends on your soul agreements with the body and the vessel that you are in, with the ancestral line that you incarnated into, and with where you want your soul to go from a higher level. So, two siblings, two twins could be born into the same family, but their souls have different missions for them, and so they will experience that body that is biologically as similar as we can get at this point, bar cloning. But their bodies can experience things in different ways if their souls have very different missions, or if they experience and internalize traumas in different ways, whether that's trauma they experience in this lifetime or pick up on the genes carrying. Now, science is proving all of this spiritual and woo-woo stuff. They are doing tests and proving, it's hard to say thanks to, but thanks to Holocaust survivors and their families, we can see the trauma of it all and how it's playing out in the genes. And so as a shamanic practitioner and an energy healer, of course, again, as someone who is very respectful of the medical field, but believes that this could work hand in hand with whatever your doctors, etc., are doing and the way that you are integrating what they're doing, all of this becomes very meaty and juicy and important for me in my work and in the way that I am initiated into that through my own physical healing, getting myself out of a wheelchair after a decade and so many other physical, deeply painful initiations that I have been through, to be in the trenches and learn these things, not only through the spiritual side or the physical study side, but through the in the trenches way of healing things. It's so integrated in my experience and important so that we can have an experience that we feel more in collaboration with instead of controlled by, so that we can get what we want out of our lives and not go into that automated response of what's coming out in the genes. We understand why it's coming out, why certain energies are affecting us as disease or disharmony, whether that's physical or mental or emotional or energetic or any of the things. And this first quarter of 2024, when I'm recording this and live with this, feels so linked into a great deal of dis-ease contracts coming up to be ended for people. And in that, when a soul contract comes up to be ended, when something comes up and says, hey, it's either time to heal this or it's almost fully healed, in either of those circumstances, at the very beginning of something or right before the end, in my experience, you could feel this kind of surge of the energy becoming very intense. And the thing is, when you've been working on healing something for quite a while, or working on a lesson or a karmic contract or something being ended for quite a while, that intensity can sometimes confuse you, no matter how many times you've been through it, can sometimes confuse you to say, oh shit, like this was feeling really good and like I was finished, and now it's all of a sudden really intense. But it's kind of like that last peak, and then you go down, finish, and close the door. So a lot of you who have been struggling with something or working through it maybe for years, and then you got to a point where you were like, oh, I feel really good about this, I think I'm done with it, and started to move forward with your new life and new reality without that thing being included. If you feel or felt like this burst of intensity around that thing all of a sudden from the beginning of 2024, you are not alone. That is this kind of last ditch effort of showing you the energy that was still there underneath so that you can deal with it, clear it, wipe the slate clean once and for all, and rip up that contract and be done. So I know some of that sounds kind of mysterious and coded and woo-woo. Ask questions about it if you need to. But for others of you, I think it's going to hit on quite a few cylinders, and I hope and intend that it helps you with whatever you've been experiencing, because these are quite intense things. And I would hate to see someone feel that intensity that is showing them that they're almost at the end, and instead confuse themselves with the downward spiral of it all and start another new cycle of it instead of utilizing it to go to the end. Oh, that's funny. It brings the stars over my whole face when I do that in the filter. Sorry, distracted. Anyway, if you are going through something like this and would like the support of energy healing and ending those soul contracts and understanding them, feel free to visit me on my website, www.daniellealexandriaalchemy.com. There are links on there to start with a session. The two best sessions for something like this where you would get reading information on the energy would be the quantum session, at least the 90 minutes and up, or the Akashic Records reading sessions. Or there are links on my site to do energy healing and quantum consciousness coaching with me, where we build you a container and help you work through that energy together. The difference between healing and coaching and individual sessions is in sessions we get you the information, we can download you information on tools and things that you can do yourself. And in the container of healing and coaching, we do it with you in a fully supportive, multi-week, multi-layered, and multi-dimensional environment where you are supported every step of the way. So both are currently available. I have a few slots open for weekly healing and coaching. We can work shamanically, we can work with Sekhem energy medicine, quantum energy healing, and consciousness coaching and modalities of all kinds. You can read more about that on the healing portion of my website. But whatever you're going through, whatever you are healing right now, know that there are a lot of doors closing and there are more doors opening. So even if you didn't resonate with the healing stuff that we talked about, if your ancestors are giving you peace, good for you. And if you are not going through the ending of those contracts or things, again, congratulations. But it's still also a period with the other end of the energy upgrade and energy updates that are happening where there are a lot of doors closing for people. Because a lot of chapters are ending, even in this first new beginning of the year. Now we are coming up on astrological New Year, so March equinox is the astrological New Year. It's the beginning of Aries season. I am an Aries, even though none of my astrologer friends, and nobody picks up on that because I am so much in my North Node of Pisces all the time that nobody picks up on my fiery Aries bits, but nonetheless I am. And Aries season starts off as the first sign in the zodiac, starts off the astrological New Year. So it is actually, for our planet, the new year. Now we have many New Years. As you know, I usually go live and discuss the different New Years that we have, starting with January New Year that calendar New Year. That's the Gregorian calendar that everyone across the world has agreed to celebrate. Then we just had Lunar New Year in the beginning of February, which is Spring Festival, Chinese Lunar New Year. Then we go to this astrological New Year in March, which is when the sun, the Earth has made a full rotation around the sun, actually marking a year-long point. And so there are a lot of chances for new beginnings. We do have other New Years, by the way. We have Egyptian New Year's and then Jewish New Year's at the end of the calendar year. So many, there's always an opportunity to start fresh. But the collective ones do tend to create a bigger energy wave that we can choose to ride or not, or get carried away by if we're not paying attention. And this wave that is happening, that we are upcoming on in the spring equinox, is meant to and will be a new beginning. But before we get to that, this year, kind of more than ever, from what I've seen, a lot of doors seem to be closing, or at least hinting that they will be closing semi-soon. So if you feel like you are looking at a lot of closed doors, please know that Spirit has shown me there are more doors opening than could ever be closing. So it's a really exciting time for that. Choose your thoughts carefully and work with the energy of your thoughts. Don't so much be in the energy of being down on yourself if you have negative or downward spiral type thoughts, if you have pessimistic thoughts, if you can't stop focusing on the doors that are closing. The first thing to do is remember that there are at least 2 times as many doors opening for everyone that is closing in your life and in the collective lives. However, if we are continuously choosing to stare at the door that is closed or that is closing, it's going to be very difficult to notice and walk through one of those other open doors. So it is all about where you are choosing to put your energy now, more than ever. And don't so much try not to have the negative thoughts as to every time that you have a negative thought, a pessimistic thought, a depressive thought, as much as possible, giving your soul and your body grace, of course, tap into, okay, how can I create a neutralized thought or a positive thought in the place of this? And start to siphon more energy away from the attention going to the negative thought or the negative focus or the fear, and siphon it to put at least the same amount, and then when you can, more energy to the focus on the positive thought that you want, that you are choosing, that you are consciously creating. And it takes practice. You're not going to be perfect with it. And it can be quite energy intense, I'm not going to lie to you. But it can start to get simpler and start to build new automated responses in your brain to think more positively, and that will not bypass the negative, because we never want to bypass it, right? We want to find out and dig through that negative, find out why it's there, find out why it's been allowed to persist, so that we can clear it and not have to have it anymore. That being said, when you're going through your day-to-day and you're having an intrusive thought, you may not be in a position to, or have the energy at that moment to do the deep inner work like we would do in energy healing and find that information to fully clear it. So this is a tool not to bypass and, ignore things that are going on or coming up for you, but to start to, in those moments where you need to focus, where you want to start building more momentum in the positive direction, get that energy behind you so that you can start to put more energy into the reality of the doors that are opening and into the direction that you want to go in, rather than towards the directions that you would fear that you would be going in with those pessimistic, limiting ideas, a lot of which, as we were saying earlier, may not even come from you, a lot of which have been ingrained in you through the way you grew up, through your childhood trauma, through ancestral karma or trauma that may be locked inside you somewhere and kind of predisposed you to behave or think or believe in a certain way. I started noticing the deeper and higher, I will say, even though those are opposite directions, that I got in my personal healing, how much of my fear was not even my fear. It was the fear of those who were around me that refused to or were unable to deal with it. And when you can see that, it's very powerful, where, yes, it's not that we give them, no responsibility to ourselves or ownership over us, but we take the responsibility in saying, hey, I didn't create that. I just perpetuated it. So my responsibility is in believing it when they were afraid of it, believing it, and then perpetuating it. But I don't have to be responsible for the karma of creating that limiting belief or that fear. And thus, it can be easier to disentangle from it. So, wow, a lot of things wanted to come through here. I will definitely be saving this live. So if you feel like you need to go back and listen again to all the little juicy nuggets, please feel free to do so. I got a kind of cryptic question there. That doesn't feel like a question that should be answered on live, Tessa. I'm sorry. If you want to reword it, perhaps I will answer, or you can go in and book a private one-on-one session, because it feels like there's a lot of private information that would come up with that. And I do like to have boundaries when I am reading on live in respect to your energy and the energies of the people involved. But you guys know, with private things like that, when you book a private session or book into energy healing and coaching with me, everything in your privacy is always paramount, and I will never disclose or be in judgment. By the way, I work with plenty of families and couples and things where everybody's privacy remains paramount, and that's something that's very important to me. You're welcome, Tessa. I'm sorry I couldn't give you a direct answer on that in the live. There's a lot there that I'm seeing the word flash private from Spirit very big. So that would probably be better to answer in a private way. But that being said, Tessa, I do see a lot of green energy surrounding it. So green can be a signifier of go, like green in traffic lights, but also more so healing. So there's a lot of healing energy going to that situation right now, which I just sent some positive intention to as well. So that is something that I'm able to tell you on live without breaking that privacy factor. But what else, you guys? I had a beautiful time this month. That being said, with all of the healing stuff and all of the things that I dealt with myself and with my clients, I did have that great time on Valentine's Day and go to the Stevie Nicks concert. I still have to upload some more of the pictures and footage from that, because it was really a tremendous time and so spiritual, because Stevie Nicks. But there were so many spiritual people there as well, and I got some spirit animal medicine during it. That's another type of session I offer. If you don't know, I do shamanic spirit animal medicine readings and journey work sessions available on my website. But after beautiful energy things that happened in the concert, there were some actual animals outside that were a surprise and that were very healing and nourishing. So spirit animal medicine is not just for the spiritual journey that I could take you on with it. It does happen in physical life as well, and the spirit animals amaze me every time. And if you are going through any of the things that we have discussed today, please know that you don't even have to wait for a session with myself or someone like myself. You can call on the Spirit Animal Collective as well to help you ground and be supported in any of the things that you are going through. And anyone, regardless of your intuition level, you can call on and ask the spirit animals to support you and see what shows up in your awareness. You can just ask your team, your angelics and your team of light, what is the spirit animal that will best support me at this time, and then be open over the next couple days to see what animal shows up for you that sparks your awareness and feels like that magnet to the answer to your question. And then you can look up the qualities of that animal. That being said, just like tarot or anything, before you actually look up qualities, do a stream of consciousness writing and just write down whatever you get, just to trust and build your own intuition too, and see what comes through before you actually look up the qualities. And then as you look through the qualities online or in a book or wherever you look, ask to be guided during that process, so that the ones that are meant for you feel like they're being highlighted and will help you and answer in your journey. And then you can keep working with that spirit animal in asking for their help, building the qualities that they have to get you through this time in your life, a certain lesson, a certain relationship, etc. And my clients around the world have loved this in terms of the way spirit animals keep showing up and the way that you keep feeling supported in seeing the signs from them, which are easier to see than angelics, than loved ones in spirit, than really the majority of the spiritual energies. Spirit animal energy is much easier to receive their messages no matter your intuition level. So it's a great starter pack, starting level with your own intuition and language with the universe, and at every level it is helpful. So highly recommend that. And where did I see Stevie, Diana? I saw Stevie at Belmont Arena. I think it's USB or UBS Arena here on Long Island, where I am from, and she was amazing. Oh, yes, adjacent to, Diana says, adjacent to Stevie, a friend sent me to the Tom Petty Vosage's chocolates today. That's amazing. So you are an actual Stevie fan, and you know that Stevie dated Tom Petty, and they have a song as well. And so that is beautiful. So you were in that divine masculine element of it. Both of them poets, in my opinion, very talented individuals. And Stevie is also extremely spiritual. So I will tell you now, although I may make a separate shorter video on it since we talked about so much today. But so Valentine's Day, I got myself the Stevie Nicks concert tickets. I had never seen her live before, but her music, although I will admit, I can be a little bit of a musical snob in terms of I love a person with a big voice. I love a big voice. I love jazz and R&B and soul and a lot of different genres and a lot of older music. But I just love when someone has a lot of ability with their voice and a lot of octaves. But the most important thing to me is the feeling that comes through it, regardless of the depth or the octave range or something like that. With Stevie Nicks, if her voice came out of anyone else, I don't know that I would be such a fan, but the way that she combines her poetry and her spiritual abilities, in my opinion, alleged spiritual abilities, right? Because she has not always fully defined them. But the way she combines her spiritual persona and abilities with her poetry and the way that it comes out through her voice, that's what makes me love her so much, really, because certain singers, whether they have the octaves and the technical abilities or not, will not hit on both cylinders, right? And so when someone has the ability and the energy behind it, that's what I love. And the energy behind it is always most important, guys. So don't feel like you have to be perfect or have a wide range in abilities before you present something, because the energy and intention behind anything is always most important. Just put my coach hat back on for a second. But the way that she combines it, really perfect. The woman is 75 years old this year and just has lost nothing. She has continuously worked on it. She brought her vocal coach out on stage, Steve Riel, I believe is his name, and they sang Leather and Lace together, which is one of my favorites. And she talked about the fact that every show day, 3.5 hours before the show, she is doing vocal coach work with him and ballet training and different things that she still invests in herself and in her gifts. She doesn't rest on the laurels of being Stevie Nicks or having accomplished certain things or having a fan base that will be there for her no matter what, which people would. She is very much still working at it. And I think that's a great lesson for any of us in any field that we're in terms of, not that it always has to be work, but to invest in yourself and to invest in yourself if you want something to continue at a level that you enjoy and others enjoy, and keep putting the energy behind it, if provided that you are still passionate in it, of course. But she was amazing. Now, there were a couple of songs that they did change the tempo on, slightly, very slightly. They took it like a half a step down, I would say. But She held the notes. She was dancing. She was energy cleansing the entire freaking stage and stadium. Again, alleged, in my opinion. She did not say that she was doing this, but just seeing it through my informed eyes, that's what she was doing. She was taking the tambourine, which she was not personally mic'd. She only had the stand with the mic. So she knew that in walking away from the mic, you could not hear that tambourine. Even in the first row, you couldn't hear it probably. But she went from corner of the stage to corner of the stage, wrapped around the entire thing and took it section by section with her tambourine, cleansing and blessing everybody. And I was in kind of a section that was in the middle of two sections, so I feel like I got double Stevie cleansing and blessing, so much appreciated. If anyone in the Stevie Nicks arena realm ever watches this, thank you so much. I freaking love you. But it was just phenomenal, and almost all of the songs that were my favorites she performed. It was just her. It wasn't with Fleetwood Mac because obviously, as we know, Christine McVie has passed away, but she was very present, and she did a beautiful tribute to Christine towards the end. I will not say what song because no spoilers, but gorgeous pictures and beautiful honoring. She also did a tribute and honoring to the Ukraine that she has continued to do since the beginning, and to different victims of war throughout the world. Has told amazingly funny stories throughout the whole thing. And honestly, you guys, I forgot because I go to more like cabaret, jazz, Broadway, sometimes big band, but mostly like small theater venue things in the past few years. And I have not been to like a big rock concert or big stadium concert since Tina Turner, which was quite a few years ago. So I forgot how many spirits love to go to a big arena show. And that place was packed with spirit. There was so much spirit there. Some that enjoy Stevie, some that do not, and just were there like enjoying the energy of everyone. The energy of the living people there was also quite amazing. People of all ages. I saw from 6 years old to probably 80s from just what I saw. And it was just lovely. It was lovely to see so many different age ranges. There were a ton of mothers and daughters there. They did Fleetwood Mac songs and personal Stevie songs, and the Rhiannon energy was top. Because, you know, I am a goddess person and a god person, but the Rhiannon energy was very, very strong and very beautiful and very activating. And I would venture to say that there were LightCodes present as well, because the way that Stevie arranged the lights in her show and in the images she chose for the background was just very, very activating and healing, and I appreciated it tremendously. And then the animals that were outside, I will say, while still in respect to my experience, because never share more than you feel called to with any experience, but the animals that were outside after were very in line and very in resonant with the energies that she provided up on the stage. So it was one of the best concert experiences that I've ever had, and I credit that to the fact that she is very spiritual. She has intentions for things. I know there's a lot of controversy about what she labels herself as spiritually, and of course I will always respect that, but she was energy working, in my opinion. No one will ever be able to convince me any different, and it was a beautiful time and experience, and thank you for those of you who messaged me about it and that you love Stevie too. And yes, Diana, I see your comment that you feel that way about Kate Bush. Another person that is, in my opinion, as well, very linked in with putting intention and art behind their words and behind what they are singing. So look for those people, because everybody puts some kind of intention, but fewer and fewer artists, in my experience, put so much positive intention. And the thing about Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac is it's not generally, like, you look at the poetry of those words, it's not generally something that the intention necessarily was, hey, we're going to heal a great deal of people with the message of this song, right? That the intention was more, they're going to share the honesty and integrity of their experience, and that's what in itself becomes healing to so many people, and that's what a lot of people resonate with. And so I would hope that my clients, and as many people as possible, take the lesson of that. You don't have to be an artist, you don't have to be a singer, you don't have to be in a public space whatsoever to look at that intention of capturing something in integrity and in purity of trueness to self, and knowing that that can be such a healing and such an inspiration to others. It's something that I strive to do more, and that I know a great deal of people, choose to do. It's not an easy thing to do in this world because it opens you up to judgment. I mean, how many of those songs are personal little breakup songs, right? And it opens them up to judgment about who did what to who and invites people in. But when you can stand in that energy and not care, or care but not let it affect or stop you from doing what you want and need to do and know in your heart is the right thing to do, that's a very, very powerful and kind of dangerously powerful almost place to be, of being honoring to yourself while leaving the door open for others to take that inspiration and invitation to be more themselves. So that was a very soapboxy coach moment, but it was for somebody. So I hope you enjoy that. Anyway, thank you guys who are hopping in. If before I wrap up for the night you have a personalized question that you would like an answer on, you can feel free to pop that in the comments before I go for tonight. But I did just want to say these things. I have been missing you all and feeling not guilty, but feeling not great about not being able to show up with as much frequency here when I have been working on so much, personally and in my business and my new website and that new level of business and all of these things that have been coming up with clients and with myself and with spiritual friends of mine, that there's just so much happening this past month. And so I want you to know that however present or active I am or not, I am holding space and appreciation for you, and know that you are supported beyond measure by things that maybe you can see or maybe you cannot. Even if you can see a great deal spiritually, please know that if you are going through a time where you don't feel like yourself, or whether you feel sad or are going through a purge of grief or stress or anxiety emotion, all of those things can act as extra veils through the lens of our experience. And so even if you have a great relationship with your guides or your angels or whatever you call them, if you are not feeling supported in those moments, it does not mean that your support is not present and active for you. It could simply mean that the weight of the emotions that you are dealing with and clearing at that time are just acting as that extra veil and clouding it out from being seen or heard or felt in your typical way. Sometimes the way that we experience things does shift and change, but always remember that feelings are meant to be transient. They are meant to be temporary experiences. It is our ego and our past fear patterning that holds on to them and tries to continuously define them and keep them around in our experience. So working on why that is happening and why we have the thoughts that keep doing that can help us to work through and allow feelings to be more transient, especially if they are feelings that are undesirable or stressful to us. So that's something that I work on with my coaching and healing clients, and understanding the roots for your feelings, but it's obviously also something you can work on yourself. And try that, I don't want to say trick, but try that technique that we spoke about earlier in terms of transitioning the energy from more of the negative or difficult thinking to the more positive, because as you are continuing to co-create your reality and build a new life in and around yourself, what you focus on is going to project into your coming days in some way, shape, or form. So it's not to make having a bad, stressful thought or a slip backwards wrong, but it's about how much we are focusing on that and how we are defining it, and how much we are defining it as wrong or undesirable, and how much of that energy is keeping going in that direction that we actually don't want. So find out why we're experiencing it so that we don't bypass it altogether. That's something I can help you with if you need. And then we can start to let it go, disentangle from it, and at the same time put more attention and focus on the positive thought, on the positive belief, on the thing that we want instead. And if you can't reach positive, if it's too much of a jump from where you are and how you are experiencing stress at this moment, go for neutral. Just go for, I'm not going to define it that way. I'm not going to define it the way that I have in the past. I'm not going to define it the way that others around me are defining it as a bad or stressful thing, and put less energy and attention and focus to it so that it's not going to be as big of a deal in your life and in your experience, and so that the bigger deal could be in your relationship with higher power. Okay, how am I going to clear that thing? How am I going to get through that thing? How am I going to pay that bill? How am I going to solve that problem? Whatever it is. And so energy flows where attention goes. Simple and probably overused saying, but can be very true. So pay attention to that, especially in the coming days. If you are in one of the waves of people that haven't yet experienced these ascension sicknesses or energy updates and upgrades, please know that it does pass. It does pass. And, take what nuggets of gold you can from that experience and keep focusing on the bigger picture of what's going to happen and what you want to happen after that wave has passed, rather than the sitting in the uncomfortableness continuously and allowing yourself to sink into the wave. You want to ride the wave, rise above it, and picture what's on the other side for you. So I hope and intend that that has helped you tonight. Thank you for those of you who were here live and chatted back and forth with me some. I believe I will be posting this on my YouTube as well, because it is easier to replay on there. So hi, my YouTube people. Haven't seen you in a while, if and when you are watching this on there too. But it will be on replay here on IGTV. Please be sure you are following both places so you can catch me again in new content, which I am working on. New content, courses, new things for the new year, and the new website. And remember, you can always find me on my website, DanielleAlexandriaAlchemy.com, to get in touch with me about that coaching and healing, or to get a session with me anytime. So I will see you next time. Be blessed with love, light, and light codes. Love, Danielle Alexandria. Bye for now, you guys. Stay well.